Hey folks, Chris Schulte here once again with Friction Labs, and today we're going to talk about snow bouldering. Maybe it's that time of year, the bleak midwinter, or maybe the first hints of spring up high. Places like Rocky Mountain National Park, Mountain Blue Sky, Tahoe area, even Little Cottonwood Canyon, or chunks of Switzerland, or far up in the mountains of the Pacific Northwest. You're going to get out springtime, or like I said, maybe in the middle of the winter, and you're going to want to take advantage of some outstanding conditions that are just starting to roll in. There's a few things that you're going to need to keep in mind because one of the big deals about getting out here is winter travel. Now, we're not going to go too far into that because that's a massive subject on its own. It can be pretty basic to just head out and go bouldering, clean some stuff up. There's not a whole lot to it, and there's not a whole lot of tools that you need to pay attention to in order to get this done. To start, and maybe this is pretty obvious, having your transport down is pretty important. For one, a decent four-wheel drive or the like with chains, snow tires. Don't drive your bad summer tire, rear wheel drive, whatever, up into the mountains. Get chains, know how to use them. Don't be that person. Secondly, once you leave the parking lot, you're gonna want to be able to move. Now, if you're lucky, you can get out early enough and stay late enough that maybe the crust is firm enough on here that you can actually still walk around without absolutely plunging up to your waist like a elk post-holing uphill in wolf country. Some skis with some skins or some snowshoes are going to make your foot travel vastly more enjoyable. The next thing you're going to want to be sure to have is a decent layering system. Some winter clothes are absolutely key. Just some stuff that's basically waterproof and warm enough that it can get you through all of these conditions, whether you're in the sun or the shade. Having layers that you can take on and off is going to go a long ways to keeping you warm, keeping you dry, and keeping you healthy, safe, maybe even alive. Because I mean, some of these things you might be a little ways from the car, and well, even moderate hypothermia is it's no joke. And honestly, just being cold and wet is kind of miserable. It's going to affect your day. So get some warm clothes. Basic rain shell will do the trick. Tops and bottoms. Get yourself some gaiters. Also a big deal. Keep the snow out of your boots. Have some decent boots. Have some Gore-Tex hiking boots, or some actual like ice climbing kind of boots or something like that. That's going to keep you really warm and really dry. Me myself, I like stretchy kind of soft shell materials. It just seems to be a little bit more versatile when the temperatures are going up and down and the wind starts blowing and whatever. Half the time I'll also have like some merino wool thermal undies packed in my pack somewhere. Again, layers, layers, layers. It's also obviously going to be important, since you're going to be out here cleaning boulders, that you're going to have a couple of pairs of gloves. I say a couple because one is none, two is one kind of theory. Always have a little bit of a backup pair because you're going to be getting into it. Your stuff is going to get wet. You're going to want to change. Furthermore, a little bit of eye protection is kind of non-negotiable. Snow blindness is a real thing. I like the glacier goggle style ones with the horse blinders on the side. Keeps me focused, but it also keeps me, able to see if I'm out for 6 or 8 hours in the daytime instead of just being absolutely cooked with a headache and my eyes don't work the next morning. Take care of your eyeballs. Beyond that, there's a couple of things that you can pack along which are just going to make your day nicer. Bring a thermos full of hot stuff. Bring some soup or tea or chili or curry or something like that. Maybe you have like either a Wooby blanket or something to that effect, or some big puffy pants. Are pretty nice. I actually have. They're kind of hard to find, but if you can find an elephant's foot, it's a half style sleeping bag. They come up to about here and they pair really well with a big old puffy jacket. If you can find yourself an elephant's foot, man, you are psyched. They are just awesome for hanging out. Even if it's cold weather bouldering, just slip into that thing, rest between goes, warm your feet up, warm your shoes up, warm your hands up, etc. Elephant's foot is pretty nice. Now, as far as tools go, there's going to be a little bit more than just a shovel involved. There's a couple of things that you want to bring along just to make sure that you're not just having a full-on minimalist alpine experience. I always bring at least one small-ish tarp, you know. Say about a 5x8 or something like that is usually enough just to have a little dry spot that you can sit on, you can lay your gear out on, and keep your pads dry if you're bringing it along. We'll come back to that in a minute. It's nice to have a hangout spot and a place to put your stuff to just keep it out of the snow, keep it dry, keep things a little bit more pleasant. Now, naturally, you're going to want to bring your shovel. A regular snow shovel can do the trick. I like alpine style shovels, alpine climbing style shovels, whatever, Avi shovel, ski shovel, whatever you want to call that thing, because it's collapsible, it's portable, it's lightweight, and also it can cut blocks. Because a lot of the time you're going to dive into these pits here and you're going to be cutting blocks like you're about to make an igloo. Being able to chop into that stuff with the metal blade is going to make a big difference. I've had a couple of plastic bladed alpine shovels over the years, and I broke both of them. Metal is a little bit better. However, it's really important to remember that if you're using the thing to, say, clean snow off of the actual boulder, it should be obvious you're going to need to be careful. You don't want to, especially if you're some area like Joe's Valley. I mean, and yes, it does snow out in the desert. You're going to need to be extra careful when you're shoveling snow off with a metal bladed shovel. This thing can damage the rock. It's metal, especially those soft sandstones that you're going to find. Now, on top of that, it's nice to have something like a great big push broom. I've got a bit of a quiver of brooms and brushes of all sorts. I actually bought a telescopic painter's pole that I can fit my big push broom head onto, so I can reach way up high, like 12 feet, to swift off big amounts of snow that's not fully packed and iced on. It moves a lot of material really quickly. They're super nice to have. And also on the big long pole, just as you would use a stick brush, it makes it possible to get to some of those hard to reach places without fully going, death defying alpine climbing to clean off your boulder. Now, a little whisk broom is probably going to be one of the most important pieces that you're going to use. They're super useful to kind of swift around and get into the cracks and crevices and actually clean out the jugs, the crimps, the seams, whatever that you're going to probably be climbing on. They're nice for the detail work. They clean up the little spots. They clean off your pad or your tarp or whatever. They brush you off so you're not dumping snow onto your hangout spot. Whisk broom, little whisk broom, super nice, super key. Now, methodology. As far as this goes, it should be self-explanatory. If you've never done it before, you can blunder through it pretty well, and you can make some mistakes that you'll regret. First things first, you're going to want to start from the top and work your way down. If you start and clean out the bottom and then you go up top, and all of a sudden your awesome clean landing is full of the snow that came off the top of the boulder. I know maybe that's a no-brainer, just consider it. Now, climbing up on these boulders, you're going to want to be careful because, like I said a minute ago, sometimes it can be a little bit wacky. I mean, you're mixed climbing at some points. So having some micro spikes or something like that, or having a basic idea of how to, even kick steps in the snow and make yourself a little spot that you can test and obviously stand in, use your shovel maybe to carve out a little step for yourself. Basic alpine tech from the 1800s, right? Like, get to know some of this stuff so you can get up there without fully taking a grounder off of, your 15-20 foot tall mixed climb, basically. Now, keeping that in mind, there are some instances where you might even want to bring a short length of rope, a harness, a belay device tie off to a tree or a boulder or something like that. It's, again, it's snowy, it's icy. Your boots are a little bit wet. When you step on the rock, you might slip. You might totally spill off of your mini mix climb. So sometimes, consider your terrain. It might warrant hanging a rope somewhere just to keep you safe. If you're well into the backcountry or a stretch away from the car, a little extra safety goes a long ways. I'm going to back up a bit. When you go out on some of these days, I'm going to guess 90% of the time, the first day out is not a climbing day. You're going out specifically to clean boulders. You don't need to bring all of the cleaning stuff, all of the warm stuff, the dry stuff on top of your climbing gear. Now, that's not everywhere, and it's not every instance. You might be able to stroll out and climb 15 problems on day one up in the Alpine. More often than not, day one is all about cleaning. You're going to have to move as much snow as you can, and then you're going to have to give it a little bit of time to melt a little bit, for those watery seams and jugs to dry out, to let the moss or lichen that's been hanging out under snow and ice all winter to breathe a little bit, dry out, and just let that run off, that melt, move on, dry out, so you're not going to end up like breaking any holds or something, you know. So generally try to think of your day one in the Alpine as being just a cleaning day. Give it another day or so, let it bake in the sun, then come back with climbing gear and, you know, business as usual. You're going to find times as well where it just doesn't want to come off and you're going to need it to come off. That's going to mean, you know, you clean it as much as you can between shovel, hit it with the brush, maybe hit it with the Swiffer, and let that thing get some sun. It'll melt. Just, you know, be patient. Which is a funny thing to say, being that you're already up in the Alpine somewhere shoveling a boulder out of snow and ice. But, you know, the point is take your time, respect the rock, and yeah, realize a little bit where you are and what you're doing, you know. Oh yeah, now we're talking. That's good stuff. Whoa. Ice scraper can also be a pretty sweet tool if you want to get in close and a little more precise. The plastic blade is obviously not going to be as you know, as hard hitting as the metal one, but it's also going to be a little easier to be gentle on the rock. Big Swiffer, little Swiffer. I think we can call that pretty good enough. Now for the landing. The landing, although not carrying the threat of falling off the icy, snowy boulder, is probably the tougher bit of the whole mix, because well, you might be moving a lot of snow. Now, kind of the way to tackle this is to think in terms of stair steps. Make yourself some stadium seating in a way. Start cutting blocks top down, step out, you know, a few feet and work your way in, and just start up high and start taking manageable blocks out. And that can literally look like carving out blocks like you're about to build a snow cave or an igloo or whatever. Have a plan on where you want to set them. So again, you don't have to move them 2 or 3 times. Sometimes, if you're really clever with it, you can do things like build a little bit of a wind wall or something to that effect, you know. And when you're clearing these spaces out, keep in mind, you really only need to clear out enough so you can actually climb the thing and, you know, maybe somebody can move around and spot you a little bit. Kind of nifty through the winter, you can climb some rather high problems just by utilizing the snow as sort of a natural and moldable stair step that you can just sort of pad upwards, cover a lot of ground. It's kind of nice. A lot of high balls get done in the early season up in the mountains. Just like working in a snow cave, well, I guess you are, but these shorter handled shovels are a lot more maneuverable than you know, your front porch snow shovel. It's something to keep in mind. Now, if this looks like hard work, it's because it is. But, you know, console yourself. You're going to get those good conditions on your project, but also it's just great public service. Be an unsung hero. So again, as we move along, remember to keep looking at your line and think about, you know, how much space do I actually need here? Now, you don't want to be trying to wiggle through a cave. You don't want to have a bad time where you're trying super hard not to dab the snow pad Coliseum situation, whatever. But do remember, you know, if your feet are going to cut at some point, you don't want to slop into the thing and ruin your send or whatever. So, you know, keep looking at your line, keep thinking about the moves, and dig accordingly. Quick little boot pack. I feel pretty good about it. I think we got enough room to swing our legs around to do that top out. If your feet cut, which on this problem hopefully they don't, you have enough room to get them back on to recover. You got enough room to sit back and get out of the way and spot your friend as they come up real nice and close. Bonus. I want to say that's about the long and the short of it. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Like I said, it's pretty basic stuff in a nutshell. Once you get the process down, it sort of becomes second nature. I mean, really, you're just playing in the snow and being careful not to hurt the rock. Just real quick again, to go over my most basic toolkit, because obviously this is going to change a little bit depending on your conditions, your weather, how far in you're going, all that stuff. Got my little spikes just in case. Got my sunglasses, super important. Also, man, you might want to bring a little sunscreen. I've been using this stuff. It's a natural roll-on one because you know, Mom said I was fair-skinned. It seems kind of unfair to me most of the time. So I mean, bring a little sunscreen. It gets sunny out here. Best pack of lunch, friends, and those extra gloves and some brushes. If you're skiing, skinning, whatever, you're gonna need that stuff. Your Swiffer, your big Swiffer, your scraper, a little tea towel or whatever you call it, bar towel, golf towel, hand towel. This goes a long way too, especially when you get out and climb, because no matter how careful you are, no matter how well you tarp and place your pads and whatever, you're absolutely going to bury a climbing shoed foot into the snow at some point. Try to have a little bag to keep all of this stuff that's gonna get wet separate, so you can kind of keep the inside of your pack dry, you know. Um, Also, maybe keep choose a pack that's maybe a little on the tougher and more waterproof side. This one's a roll top and keeps all the junk out. Anything that you can do to keep dry means you're gonna keep warm, means you're gonna keep out longer. You're gonna be happier. You're gonna be more comfortable. Again, 8 million things you could talk about when it comes to traveling in the Alpine in winter conditions. We're here to talk about bouldering, cleaning up boulders. I think we about covered it. If you folks have any questions, I guess put them in the comments or something like that. And who knows, maybe we'll expand on this in the future. Thanks a bunch. Have fun. Take care and enjoy the season.